Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2021 action thriller Man VS Bigfoot, a film that is written, directed and stars David D. Ford. Now this film focuses on David D. Ford's character Jack Rawlings, who we see at the beginning of this film is a police officer. Something happens in the line of duty that is made clear later in the film, but we know it's something that scarred him pretty badly. He's going to like group therapy, trying to get over it. He's an ex-army ranger or something like that, and he goes to see his brother. And his brother informs him that he's going to go off and do some wandering in the wilderness, some camping, that sort of thing. And while he does this, his brother he goes missing. Everybody assumes he's missing and dead, but his brother Jack won't accept this, and he decides to go looking for him in this wilderness. And he spends 2-3 days out there looking, and what he discovers is a legendary creature, Bigfoot Sasquatch, that may be responsible for his missing brother, and he's determined to find out what's going on and stay alive at the same time. What are my thoughts on Man vs. Bigfoot? Well, this is a low-budget film. That is very clear at certain points in this film. When there's like a few people having a conversation, the sound's a little bit tinny. It's not great sound. Some of the performers, have not of the greatest skill, I suppose you could say. I think it's fair to say. But they all actually do a fairly decent job of delivering the lines and making themselves fairly believable. So it's certainly low budget, and now I've seen quite a few low budget Bigfoot films, and sometimes they can be terribly done. But I have to say, I was really pleasantly surprised with this one. It's one of those with a simple plot that it doesn't overcomplicate. And this is one of my bugbears with low-budget films. They overcomplicate what should be a simple plot. And they try and dazzle you with plot points and all this kind of stuff. And it just frustrates, really, and it confuses. They try to hide the budget with it. And this film, if you like, it knows what it is. It knows it's a low-budget film, but it tries to deliver an engaging film, and I think it actually succeeds for the most part. Very simple. He goes into the woods looking for his brother, and he's pretty much warned by someone around his campfire the first night that there is basically a Bigfoot in the woods and it's not happy and he should go home. And he obviously doesn't believe him and things like that, but it all becomes very, very true. And then you get this survival film. Then it's like a battle between Man versus Bigfoot, and it's to and from. One gets the upper hand, the other one gets the upper hand, and it's a battle to see who can survive. Now, it takes from a lot of films that have come before it, or borrows from a lot of films that come before it. You see scenes that you've seen in things like Rambo, Rambo 3, was it Rambo 3? When he puts the gunpowder in the bullet wound and sets fire to it, that sort of thing. We have a very similar scene in this film, and it rips very heavily on Predator as well. There are a number of scenes in this film that you will recognise very clearly from Predator, and it doesn't really hide that fact. It is almost a clone of Predator at times, the film, but again, that doesn't make it a bad film. It's kind of tipping its hat to these great films that's come before it, and it's tried to do it on a very, very small budget. Now, some of these films will live and die, Bigfoot films, with the effects that we are presented with. Now, this film cleverly doesn't show an awful lot, which is a smart move, and what it does show you, for the most part, is fairly believable. There are some shots that you see and it's clearly a man in a suit, but there are some close-up shots, especially of the Bigfoot's face, that do look quite animalistic and quite realistic. And you see some short shots of the hands and the feet, and these can make or break these movies. I've seen some terrible Bigfoot movies with terrible like close-ups of faces, hands and feet, and they look shocking. And this kind of gets away with it. But like I said, there are a couple of dodgy shots here and there. But you do actually kind of get into this film. I was pleasantly surprised by it. Initially, I was very hesitant because, like you say, you could clearly tell it was low budget with some of the stuff that he's talking about. But it's smartly written in a sense that it gives this guy, Jack, a backstory, a reason to be in the woods other than looking for his brother. He's looking for redemption too. Which we'll learn about later in the film, this huge event that happened to him as a police officer that's really scarred him. So he's looking for redemption in these woods, and ultimately this is what he seeks. Does he get that redemption? Well, you'll have to watch the film yourself to find that out. But I really liked this character's arc. I thought it was nicely done. It was simply done. It wasn't overly, like I say, complicated. They didn't throw plot points here and there. They didn't chuck... A lot of these low-budget films will chuck like random people into the woods just to be cannon fodder for these creatures, or you know, whether it be a werewolf, whether it be zombies, whatever it is. You get these random people just thrown in there, nameless, faceless people, just to be mauled. It didn't do that, this film. It just focused on these two characters going at it. I think the only real mistake I think this film made was the scene that I mentioned earlier, with this guy around the campfire with him, this native, talking to him about Bigfoot and how he saw this thing happen to this Bigfoot and why it's probably angry. I personally feel we didn't need that scene. I don't think we needed a reason why this Bigfoot was angry. I think it was best left to the reveal at the end. It didn't need that explanation around the campfire. We didn't need that at all. I think should have been just left to us to try and figure out what was going on, because the reveal was given later on anyway. But that was a narrative misstep, I suppose. The rest of it I was pretty engaged by. Interestingly, this has got such a terribly low score on IMDb. I think people just assume that, you know, that you're going to get these brilliant high budget movies, so they just score it accordingly when they don't think when it's not what they expect. I went into this film with fairly low expectations anyway, and I was pleasantly surprised by this one. So I'm actually going to give this one a 6 out of 10. I was, you know, pretty impressed with it. Simple plot, low budget, yes. Sometimes it was very, very clear that it was low budget, but at times as well, it still impressed me with what it gave on screen. So if you're looking for a fairly simple Bigfoot film, I think you could do far worse than this one. I was quite impressed with it, to be honest. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you liked the review. If you did, please click the like button. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, and I'll be back with plenty more content on the channel very, very soon.